President Donald Trump says there could be more U.S. casualties as Israel and Iran continue strikes.
Fox Eye political analyst Rick Epps is joining us now this morning with the latest on the fallout of Operation Epic Fury. Rick, good morning. Thank you for being here. You were saying that you didn't really sleep much this weekend.
No, good morning to you, but it's been really, it's been a very difficult few days, but partially this is my area of research and my expertise, but it's hard to see it.
Last time we spoke, and you were here, we had a conversation where I remember you saying a lot of what we were seeing a few weeks ago was political theater. Mm-hmm. We fast forward now and we're waking up to being, you know, in this huge conflict that looks like it is growing. Last night, President Trump saying he made a promise to the Iranian people and he fulfilled that promise. What are your thoughts this morning?
It's too early to say if he fulfilled it. I mean, it really is. I mean, taking out or cutting out the snakehead is certainly a step, right? But there's always the morning after. And I always, you know, I've said this when we talked about the Arab Spring years ago and we talked about the Iraq War. There's the day after which you have to really confront. And the day after is where, okay, the Ayatollah's gone, but now you have a vacuum. You have a political vacuum, and who's going to fill that? Well, we know in the short term, it's filled by, there's a council of 3 individuals, one including the president, plus 2 serious hardliners who are sitting there perched. One is a cleric, the other one was a former head of intelligence. So you've got 3 people, 2 of them are severely heavily locked in on heavy repression of the people. So it's a temporary step, but then the next step in that, if you look at it, is the security infrastructure, you know, the IRGC, who's really behind, who's really controlling things. The security apparatus is more important than those 3 individuals who are there to sort of give this image of stability that really isn't there right now.
I think the moment this happened, a lot of people, again, concerned with the region and getting involved in a war, forever war being the term a lot of people are throwing around. How long do you see this playing out? You heard Pete Hegseth speaking earlier this morning. Right. What are your thoughts on that?
Forever war, it certainly could be a long-term war. It depends on there's a lot of scenarios that play out. You know, you have action, reaction, right? So as long as there's retaliation, as long as, you know, we hit them, then they hit back. And Iran is known for using its proxies right around the region, whether it be Hezbollah or Hamas or other groups that they utilize to hit. We call it asymmetric warfare, where you don't have a direct confrontation with the United States. You don't want to do that because we know we could handle that if it came down to it. But the long term is because it's like, do you have the political will to do what's necessary to take the next step? So once you've removed the head of the snake, if you would, what about the rest of the apparatus? You know, it's going to be very difficult to achieve if the ultimate goal is regime change. It's going to be very difficult to do that without boots on the ground.
Do you not think, though, as it appears, Rick, that while we're talking and thinking that, you know, this is a lot of political stuff going back and forth, this was something that has been planned, it appears now, for months. No. Do you not think that they have sat down and kind of went through that vacuum that you're talking about to have a plan of what the day after is going to look like?
It's interesting to say, because I would say, yes, it's been planned for a long time. The operations part, you don't get to go after the head of a state without having operational plans. As far as the policy that you implement, though, there's where the question lies, because if you can have a policy based on an old paradigm that you think leads to a certain result that doesn't lead to that result. And so when you look at this, you can say, yes, okay, the game plan was in place, but we thought we had a game plan in Iraq too, and we didn't. And look what happened there. So the idea now is, what is the next step? And no one knows what that next step is. And everybody's kind of, the Iranian people are waiting, the American people are waiting, and it's really, you know, the next few days are going to be very telling.
But you talk about the Iranian people, and from what we've heard from them, I mean, we've heard one name being called out over and over again, and calling for the prince to return, to lead them to a democratic transition so that ultimately they in the future are able to choose who leads them.
Yes, the Pahlavi is certainly, the Shah's son is certainly the front runner for democratic change if we can get there. But you know, again, there are forces inside of Iran who are pushing against that. They're divided. There's a division on some level. Even though I agree with you, I think Pahlavi is probably the path forward, at least in the interim government. The difficulty in this is, you know, creating democracy sounds like a wonderful thing. It is not an easy thing to do, to say, hey, everybody, here's democracy. Make it work, right? And then the truth is, it takes time. It takes evolution. It takes political socialization. We struggle with it here. So imagine what if you're in Iran, trying to create democratic institutions when you've got the last 45, almost 50 years of repression in an authoritarian system. And the young people there, which is the majority of people, have no history of the revolution. How do you get there quickly? And that's the hard part, is the confronting the reality of the transition. What does that look like? And that's a tough question.
You mentioned cutting off the head of the snake and other leaders in the regime. Where are we with talks with, because there were talks leading up to this, obviously that didn't work, all the meetings in Oman. And the meetings in Oman were happening during the 2-3 months of planning to kill the Ayatollah, which we know that. So do talks resume with new leadership? What is that leadership in the meantime? What happens?
There will eventually be talks. I think right now the tensions are high, and in fact there probably are even talks going on tacitly. But I think that in terms of real serious negotiations, it's almost a greater risk for the Iranian people who want change, right? And like you, Sally, I celebrate the fact of having a moment of celebration that finally somebody who has been responsible for killing all these people, all these innocent lives, is gone. The talks, though, are kind of concerning as well because, okay, let's say we talk with them and they come to some level of detente where we have this, okay, we're going to stop aggression. Well, what happens with the Iranian people then? Does that mean you're going to allow for the remaining leadership to stay there and run it? Or are you still going to look toward democratic change? And if we get comfortable with, okay, we made our point, now let's just back out and leave it to the people, which Trump said the other day, okay, people, go overthrow your country. Well, what are you going to do with IRGC? What are you going to do with the Quds Force? What are you going to do with the rest of the military infrastructure? What are you going to do with them?
I really quick want to talk about the talking part, because this morning the president said there will be no talking with the United States. It's just a change of tone all of a sudden. They're going to hit every U.S. military base. And we've seen over the weekend there was concern about the regional war. It seems like it's starting. Hezbollah hit Israel. Iranian military retaliating, hitting Dubai, Saudi Arabia, many of the countries around. And now these countries are stepping up who were very vocal and said that they did not want to get involved in this, and now being drawn into this as well.
That's the danger of this in terms, I would say we're already at the beginning of the regional war. And that's where I don't see a world war coming out of this, but the regional impact certainly has a global impact. The Straits of Hormuz, that's where, economic infrastructure for a lot of the planet comes through there. All the oil comes through there. You've got regional concerns because now you've hit most of the Gulf states. You've hit you've Iraq, you've got Dubai, you've hit all these nations. So now you've got a sort of regional interest in this. And that's going to be hard to unwind because here's the thing that's the reality. No matter what your policies happen to be, there are always unintended consequences. So, and if there are any miscalculations in either our actions or what if Iran can't control the actors like Hamas in a previous uprising? Hamas did what it wanted to do, even though Iran wanted a different outcome. If you can't control those things, then that's where the danger can escalate beyond something that we would like to see happen. And that's a real issue.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. Professor Rick Epps, we'll speak with you again too. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Appreciate it.